Work and learn. Meet Light Meet Max සක්‍රිය කර ගැනීමට MySLT app එකට log වෙන්න. Work and learn. Meet Light Meet Max සක්‍රිය කර ගැනීමට MySLT app එකට log වෙන්න. හඳුන්වා දෙන නව Surf Excel දැන් Comfort Premium සුළු සමගින්.
හරිම සුළුයි.
Tonight on First at 9, this Sunday the 25th of December 2022. Festive spirit. Sri Lankans welcome the dawn of Christmas amidst an ongoing economic crisis in the country. The Cardinal called on the Christian community to spend the Christmas this time with the poor.
Christmas has to be a moment of sharing and extension of our help to the poor.
Inclement weather. Several areas of the country affected from heavy rains, claiming lives of 2 people. Landslide warnings issued to 5 districts.
This depression situation will continue. Tomorrow morning it will move out of Sri Lanka to the southern seas.
Soaring losses. The operating cost of the Mattala Rajapaksa International Airport in the year 2021 is 21 times higher than the operating income during the same period, reveals the Auditor General.
From AdaDerana, this is AdaDerana First at 9 with Andrew Bernard. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
A very good evening and a very Merry Christmas to all our viewers joining the Primetime English News Bulletin of AdaDerana 24. The Sri Lankans welcome the dawn of Christmas, which celebrates the birth of Jesus Christ amid an ongoing economic crisis in the country. In his Christmas message, Archbishop of Colombo, His Eminence Malcolm Cardinal Ranjit, called on the Christian community to be sensitive towards the country's current situation and spend this time's Christmas with the poor, adding that Christmas has to be a moment of sharing.
Yesterday's midnight marked the dawn of Christmas, which is the most sacred event of Christians in Sri Lanka, as it marks the birth of Jesus Christ, who is considered the Son of God, the Son of Man, and Saviour of the world. Unlike last time, this is the first Christmas in 2 years that Sri Lankans are enjoying away from the cloud of COVID with zero restrictions. But this time, Christmas is celebrated in a backdrop where the country is experiencing an economic crisis. However, the public did not forget to welcome Christmas with joy as they decorated streets by setting fireworks. Streets and buildings in some areas of the country were decorated with an array of colorful lights portraying the beauty of Christmas. The midnight mass of Christmas was held at the Christ the King Church in Pannipitiya under the patronage of the Colombo Archbishop.
අපේ රටේ නිෂ්පාදනය කරන්න පුළුවන් හැමදේම පිට රටවලින් ගෙන්නා ගන්නට අපි පුරුදු වුණා. ඒ නිසා මේ වෙලාවේ ආර්ථික ප්‍රශ්නයක් අපේ රටට ඇති වෙච්ච වෙලාවේ අපිට ඒ කිසි දෙයක් දැන් ගෙන්න ගන්න සල්ලි නැහැ. ඒ දේවල් අපේ රට තුලම නිෂ්පාදනය කරගන්න පුරුදු වුණා නම් මේ තත්ත්වය ඇති වෙන්නේ නැහැ. අපි පිට රටියන්ගෙන් ණය ඉල්ලගෙන ජීවත් වෙලා කණ්ඩ බොණ්ඩ පුරුදු වෙන එක ඇත්ත වශයෙන්ම ලැජ්ජා සහගත අත්දැකීමක් ලෙස අපි ප්‍රකාශ කරන්නට ඕනේ.
In the meantime, the midnight mass organized by the AdaDerana Media Network was conducted by Auxiliary Bishop of Colombo Archdiocese, Reverend Bishop Anthony Jayakodi at the St. Francis Xavier Church in Vevala. In his official message, Archbishop of Colombo, His Eminence Malcolm Cardinal Ranjit, called on members of the public to spend their Christmas with the poor by taking the ongoing economic crisis into account.
We have to remember that the birth of Jesus in this humble manger calls upon us to understand that life is so transient and that happiness comes not from what we possess, but from what we share with others. And so, this Christmas in our own country, there are many people who have become poor because of the existing economic problems facing our land. It is said that 8.1 million people are on the fringes of starvation. If that is so, we cannot celebrate Christmas only on the basis of externals and eating and drinking and merrymaking and unconcerned about the others. Christmas has to be a moment of sharing and extension of our help to the poor, because Jesus deigned to be born among the poor, worked and lived as a poor person because he cherished the freedom of the poor. Therefore, this Christmas, let us spend the Christmas with the poor. The Catholic Bishops' Conference in Sri Lanka has made an appeal, especially to the Christians, to spend their Christmas not in extravaganzas, because it is not a time for extravaganzas. Let us spend the Christmas with our brethren who are most seriously affected by the situation that is existing in our country. Let us invite them to our homes, share what we have with them, let us give them whatever we can give and make their lives, at least on that day, a happy one. This is the way we can honor and respect the Lord who is born in the manger. Let us understand that Christmas is not having, but being. It is difficult to be, but it is easy to have. But what we have does not last long, but what we are is what lasts long. Therefore, I appeal to all of you, very especially to my beloved brothers in the faith, to understand this and to give an example about this. Let us share our Christmas with our brethren and make them, even in the smallest way possible, happy. And whatever sacrifice we make to make them happy will bring us immense joy that cannot be bought with money. Because whatever we can buy in the marketplaces with money in order to enjoy Christmas will have no meaning unless we learn how to make the life of our brothers and sisters a joyful one. And in that giving, let us experience the love of God.
Meanwhile, President Ranil Wickremesinghe said in the country's current unprecedented economic crisis, it is important for the people to extend compassion to one another and assist each other, which would be the salutation to the testaments of Jesus Christ. In his official message, the head of state said it is the government's aspiration to present the joy of Christmas to the entirety of society, adding that it is imperative for all citizens to resolve to fulfill their responsibilities this Christmas season and propagate devotion to all. President Wickremesinghe also said as the country celebrates the event of the birth of Jesus Christ, he wishes that the country will soon be restored with prosperity. Prime Minister Dinesh Gunawardena, in his Christmas message, said it is a timely need to properly recognize the vision of Jesus Christ, who dedicated himself to free the burdened people and create a better society. The Premier added that Christmas can be made a landmark beginning for making an economically prosperous, self-sufficient Sri Lanka, where conflicts are resolved by elimination of hatred and cruelty. Opposition leader Sajith Premadasa in his Christmas message noted that like each religious leader, Jesus also emphasized the good path and he taught people the importance of mutual respect, kindness and universal brotherhood.
Now, meanwhile, countries across the globe too welcome Christmas with a festive spirit. However, Ukraine welcomed Christmas in a war backdrop while millions of Americans and Canadians were affected from storms resulting in power outages during the day of Christmas. In his Christmas message made at St. Peter's Basilica in Vatican, Pope Francis condemned human hunger for wealth and power, seemingly referring to the war in Ukraine and other conflicts.
In the Vatican City, His Holiness Pope Francis presided over midnight Christmas Mass at St. Peter's Basilica and reflected on the closeness, poverty and concreteness of the manger in which Mary laid the Christ child.
gli uomini nel mondo affamati di potere.
What does the Lord tell us? Through the manger, three things at least: closeness, poverty, and consecrateness. Closeness. The manger serves as a feeding trough to enable food to be consumed more quickly. In this way, it can symbolize one aspect of our humanity, our greed for consumption. While animals feed in their stalls, men and women in our world, in their hunger for wealth and power, consume even their neighbors, their brothers and sisters. How many wars have we seen? And in how many places even today are human dignity and freedom treated with contempt? As always, the principal victims of this human greed are the weak and the vulnerable.
Povertà e ingiustizia.
Meanwhile, Ukrainians, however, welcomed Christmas in a backdrop of an ongoing war. Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky has urged his people to persevere in the face of Russian attacks and added that freedom comes at a high price, however slavery has an even higher price. Russia's missile and drone attacks have left millions of Ukrainians without power, heating and running water. Meanwhile, King Charles III attended a Christmas Day church service at Sandringham for the first time as monarch. The King and Camilla, the Queen Consort, are joined by Prince and Princess of Wales, their children and other senior royals at the Norfolk estate. It is the first time members of the royal family have spent Christmas at Sandringham House since 2019. Further, this is the first Christmas Day church service attended by the royal family following the demise of Queen Elizabeth II. In the meantime, over 1 million Americans and Canadians are celebrating Christmas without power as a massive winter storm continues to pummel North America. It is reported that over 250 million are affected and at least 19 deaths have been linked to the storm that extends more than 2,000 miles from Quebec to Texas. Thousands of flights have been cancelled during the festive season. The western US state of Montana is the worst hit by the cold, with temperatures dropping to minus 45 degrees Celsius. Meanwhile, Bethlehem, the birthplace of Christ, welcomed thousands of pilgrims and tourists for Christmas, a windfall that dried up during the past 2 years due to the pandemic and travel restrictions. The Latin Patriarch of Jerusalem greeted worshippers upon his arrival to the town in advance of leading the annual Christmas Eve procession at the Church of the Nativity. In the meantime, festive spirit was observed in several countries of the world with decorated streets.
Outside is frightful, but the fire is so delightful.
Now, weather advisory issued by the Meteorology Department yesterday forecasting possible conditions of inclement weather around the island. Heavy showers and thunder showers, storms gripped several parts of the island today. Following the adverse weather condition, several parts of the island even reported landslides and floods.
Since morning today, several parts of the island experienced severe showers as predicted by the Department of Meteorology yesterday. According to the Department of Meteorology, the inclement weather condition was caused by the depression over the southwestern Bay of Bengal, which entered Sri Lanka earlier today through the eastern coast of the island. 2 deaths were reported due to the adverse weather condition in Dunuvilla, where a mound of earth fell onto a house.
Two deaths were reported due to an embankment failure in Akuran AGA division in Dunuvilla North. A big boulder with heavy volume of earth fell onto a house, trapping 5 members of a family. However, the community together with the police did the rescue operation and managed to pull out all 5 members, and unfortunately 1 boy and a girl were reported dead by the time we did the rescue operation.
Owing to incidents as such, the National Building Research Organisation has issued landslide warnings to the Kandy, Kegal, Kurunegala, Matale and Nuwara districts. The Akrana town was completely engulfed by floods today, with vehicles being washed away due to the torrential rainfall.
Allah, Allah, Allah. Allah vendande, Allah Akbar.
The Kandy railway station was also completely flooded, leading to the inability to perform routine operations. Furthermore, the overflowing of the central canal in Kandy caused several houses in Suduhumpala to be affected by floods. Meanwhile, around 50 houses in Babilagampala were also affected by floods. Several houses in Mavanalla were also flooded today due to the rising water levels of the Hinguloy stream. Amidst the inclement weather nationwide, a dense mist was reported in Badulla, Haputale and Hatton. Subsequent to the depression over the southwestern Bay of Bengal entering into Sri Lanka, the sea off the Mullaitivu coast also appeared to be rough. Meanwhile, the Department of Irrigation informed that water levels of 13 reservoirs under the department's mandate have reached maximum capacity. The Director General of the Disaster Management Centre said steps have been taken to evacuate civilians from the affected areas.
Severe rains were reported from Kandy, Polgolla, Mathale areas, and due to this heavy rain, gates of Polgolla reservoir was open and there have been flash floods in most of these areas. However, the water levels are reducing. Subsequently, evacuation action has been activated and dry forces, police and people have been deployed in all these areas for evacuation activities. Colombo district is also been reported with heavy volumes of rains, and as at now the water levels are reducing, the rain is being reduced. However, as per the predictions given by the Met Department, the rains will continue till tomorrow morning and this depression situation will continue. Tomorrow morning it will move out of Sri Lanka to the southern seas.
Stay with us for more news after this short commercial break.
It's hard to keep up with the new when you're listening to the same old Slim Brand Week. A week for professionals.
Welcome back. Now in your business news, the Auditor General reports that the operational expenditure of the Mattala International Airport in 2021 was 21 times higher than its income for the same period. These comments were made by the Auditor General while reporting on the 2021 financial statements of the Airports and Aviation Services Sri Lanka Private Limited. Furthermore, the Auditor General highlighted the operational performances of the international airports in Ratmadana, Jaffna and Bariklo as well.
The Airport and Aviation Services Sri Lanka Private Limited Company recently released its annual report for the year 2021. Commenting on the report, the Auditor General made several key observations, including the performance of the airports within the country. Accordingly, the company had entered into 2 agreements with the Japan International Cooperation Agency for funding worth 47,397 million Japanese yen on the 28th of March 2012 and 24th of March 2016. The funds were to be utilized for the Phase 2, Stage 2 of the Bandaranaike International Airport Development Project. However, 82% of the funding value was awarded with a huge delay on the 4th of March 2020. Further, a sum of 359.5 million rupees was paid by the Airport and Aviation Services Sri Lanka Limited from the 20th of April 2013 to the 20th of April 2022 to the Japan International Cooperation Agency as commitment fees due to the underutilization of funds. The Auditor General also noted that no action had been taken to recover the outstanding debtor balance of Sri Lanka Airlines amounting to 1.4135 billion rupees. As at the end of the year under review, the debtor balance of Sri Lanka Airlines was 35% from the total balance of trade debtors of the Airport and Aviation Services Limited. Furthermore, the Auditor General observed that the operating cost of the Mattala Rajapaksa International Airport in the year 2021 was 2.02 billion rupees and that it was 21 times higher than the operating income during the same period. The net loss after tax of the airport for the year under review was 4.44 billion rupees and the cumulative net loss after tax from the year 2017 to 2021 stood at 20.59 billion rupees. Although the expected annual passenger capacity of the Mattala airport was around 1 million passengers per year, the total number of passengers during the last 5 years was 91,747 and total flight movements of the last 5 years were 2,396. It was also noted that the total cost of $247.7 million incurred for the construction of this airport was not effectively used. The Auditor General further highlighted that the Colombo International Airport Ratmalana had incurred a cumulative loss of 1.693 billion rupees from 2017 to 2021, including a loss of 461.08 million rupees for 2021. Meanwhile, the Jaffna International Airport, inaugurated in 2019, incurred continuous losses for the last 3 years consecutively. The Jaffna Airport earned no revenue in the year 2021 and incurred an expenditure of 40.74 million rupees. Reporting on the performance of the Batticaloa International Airport, the Auditor General stated that the airport earned no revenue for the 4 years since its inauguration, while 74.64 million rupees had been incurred as expenditure for the last 4 years.
Now, the institutions under the Ministry of Wildlife and Forest Resources Conservation have reportedly earned a record income this year. This was revealed in the recent Progress Review meeting chaired by Minister of Agriculture, Wildlife and Forest Resources Conservation, Mahinda Amravira. Accordingly, the Wildlife Conservation Department has earned revenue of 1.2991 billion rupees this year, while the National Zoological Department has generated an income of 414 million rupees. It is also reported that the revenue of the Department of Forest Conservation is 672 million rupees this year, while the State Timber Corporation has earned 4,316 million rupees. Now, bruised investors are hoping a so-called Santa Claus rally can soften the pain of a tough year in US stocks and potentially brighten the outlook for 2023. However, following the rate hikes by several central banks around the world and threats of further hike rates amid a recessionary environment are causing investors great concern.
In December, the S&P 500 has so far lost around 6%, weighed down by hefty declines in shares of Tesla, Amazon and other names that had led markets higher in previous years. The index is down nearly 20% year-to-date and on track for its worst annual performance since 2008. History shows that the market still has a better than average chance to pare those losses. US stocks have risen during the last 5 trading days of December and the first 2 days of January about 75% of the time, a pattern attributed to low liquidity, tax loss harvesting and investing of year-end bonuses. Friday is this year's start date for this rally named after Santa Claus. If the rally occurs, it will only be clear around the second trading day of 2023. The phenomenon has lifted the S&P 500 an average of 1.3% since 1969. According to data, a December without a Santa rally has been followed by a weaker than average year. The S&P 500 has gained an average of 4.1% in the year after a December without a Santa rally, compared to 10.9% gain following a period where one takes place. Data shows that January gains are also muted in a non-Santa year, with the index falling an average of 0.3% compared to a 1.3% gain after a Santa year.
And that's all the news we have for this evening. Join us again tomorrow for the very latest news at the very same time. Have a pleasant evening and a Merry Christmas. Good night.
For news and information you can trust 24 hours a day, visit AdaDerana.lk.